Back to my Hello and welcome back to my channel. I am your host Nihanda Ihinir Helmker, and I'm just going through the motions of today and trying to keep up with all of the things that I need to do. So let's get right into this video because you're not here for my excuses. You are here because you're looking at the title and you want to know what is it? How do we determine whether or not your child needs you to step in or step aside? Infantilization and the arrested development. Now, if you're a mom who has been accused of being what is called what's the term? Um, gosh. Oh, helicopter mom or parental control. How do you know when to step in and when to step aside? Now, I want to get into the infantilization first before we deal with some of the other issues and just kind of touch a little bit on that. I talked about this in terms of society's infantilization in my last video. If you want to go check that one out, you can do so. But infantilization basically means that your child is not being able to, or not given enough space for them to develop. And it's actually a kind of child abuse, in my opinion, because your child needs to, I keep saying child, your child needs the opportunity to express themselves and to try new things out. I never forget the first time that I realized this when my nephew, particularly, was told not to do something and he went ahead and did it anyway, already knowing fully well that the risks involved in doing that particular thing was very, very much real. He wanted to experience it for himself. Now, uh, if it's something dangerous, of course, it is your sole duty and responsibility to have a guiding hand or at least a safety net there for your child so that they have the necessary securities in place just in case they hurt themselves. But this type of development is super imperative to develop for the person to develop a greater sense of confidence in themselves and their ability, and can only do that through experience. Experience is a very exponentially important, I don't know why I use the word exponentially. It is a very serious and important teacher for many children. Um, a lot of learning is emotional, and the emotions behind that learning make the learning experience stick. And so, if you are telling a child to do something and teaching them by your experience, it is not the same as them experiencing it for themselves. Now, when do you want to step in is when you see that the child is making the same mistake over and over again, mistake in quotation marks, meaning that this is something that they might want to get right themselves and probably are not able to do it right the first time. This can be anything from trying on shoes to learning how to play a sport where they are continuously falling down. If you see that your child is still falling down and wanting to continuously do the same thing over and over again, you might want to slightly nudge them into the direction of where they can better accomplish the things that they want. Or better yet, find a mentor that is someone that they look up to that can help you to reinforce the message that you're trying to get across. I tend to want to steer away from bad news bears, I call them, where you have people who are just making it uberly aware of all of the dangers that are out there and stopping your child from taking risks. Because in the taking risk process, your child is developing their personality and overcoming certain things so that they are able to live their best lives. And I know that there are different schools of thoughts revolving around this particular topic, like how much control should a parent have in a person's in a child's life. I prefer to be a little bit neglectful, so to speak, and let my child play when children are playing together. There should be rules, of course. You don't hurt, bite, kick, punch, unless, of course, that those rules are part of the game. But for the most part, children play with one another is a type of socialization among each other that helps them to build their imagination. A lot of people might find this a little bit confusing since I'm an advocate of homeschooling, but When children are left to their own devices to play, they learn and explore together and develop ways of being among each other that adults tend to want to tamper with by putting in their um, regulatory boundary setting and um, instilling a level of fear, sometimes unintentionally, in the child that stops them. And when children are playing together without adult supervision, they tend to not have that regulation. They just, and everything is a good idea. And I can see that saying that can be a little bit like, oh my gosh, I should probably be paying more attention. But they learn the difference between an adult and a child through this experience. And so if you tell a child, look, if you do this, you're going to fall, and you lead with this is bad, something bad can happen, or be careful, then they associate adults with boundaries and boundary setting, which is a good thing. Now, when they're playing with other kids, that child may or may not say to them, oh, my mom says X or Y or Z. That's good and bad in the sense that if you are a child yourself and you're playing with your friends and they're quoting your parents, then they're actually speaking about the situation and giving resources from people who they trust and believe in. They might still go ahead and do the thing anyways, but you are seen in their eyes as an authority on what not to do, and that can work to your advantage as well as to your disadvantage. And you want to make sure that you give children the space to do that, to choose to listen to you or not, depending on the level of danger that is associated with it. That is how you know when to step in or step aside. Sometimes you need to allow children the space by stepping aside, um, so that they know from their own experience that when you say it's going to end like this, and it does, then they know to trust you next time, depending on where their boundaries and level of ability to cope with pain lie. And that's the second reason why it's super important for your children to play and explore and figure out where those boundaries for them lie, because it's different for each person, for each child, and they need to know how to build that level of sense of self-awareness through discovery. This is going to be their self-guiding mechanism throughout their lives that helps them to discover who they are. And if you take that away from them, they will never be able to get up from under you and experience life for themselves. You want to be able to develop this in your children in order to be able to trust them to make decisions and take initiative to problem solve in later years. And the only way to do that is to start to implement within reason um little risk-taking activities. Of course, you want to be narrow and round, and you want to make sure that you're putting the necessary checks and balances in place, but you don't want to make that be the centerpiece of all your parenting. Allow children to be able to take risks whenever they have confidence in it. And if you have a child who tends to want to take more risk than another, then you want to be able to make them comfortably aware of what those risks are. Because at the end of the day, the bottom line is they may not listen to you. They might just go ahead and make you think that they are listening, and then the minute you turn your back, they're going to do whatever they want anyways. So you might as well develop a level of confidence in them to make sure that they do things in a way that is responsible and also wise. I hope that this has been helpful for you guys. I think I'm going to do a part 2 of this, or part 3. Maybe these can fall into the same definition and category. But if you have any questions, comments, or criticism, please leave them down below. Of course, just be respectful about it. And I'll see you in the next one. Stay safe and